Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I've got an interesting story coming out from Ukraine to share with you guys. We're going to be talking about this gentleman here on your screen. He is Andriy Yermak, and I have this new story that reads Ukraine says peace talks only possible if Russia runs out of resources. Okay, so he came out a new statement today, and it says peace talks between Kiev and Moscow will only be possible when Russia has run out of resources to fight its full-scale war, says Andriy Yermak, head of the presidential office. So he apparently stated this yesterday, but the report is coming out today. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because we're approaching just about 1 month away from Donald Trump getting into office in the United States. And we keep hearing that maybe this war could be ending in the next couple of months, maybe sooner. We'll have to see what happens when Donald Trump gets into office. But it looks more and more every day like Donald Trump may not be able to end this war the way he thought he could. And also, Ukraine could be potentially taken over 100% when it comes to negotiations. And who knows, maybe Volodymyr Zelensky might not take any advice from Donald Trump at all and kind of just go down his own road here. And the reason why I'm saying that is we have a new statement coming out today from Volodymyr Zelensky as well. Him stating that no Western leaders or world leaders, that is, have any right to negotiate on behalf of Ukraine with Vladimir Putin to end this war for Ukraine. Okay, so he's coming out and saying that only Ukraine will make their own decisions, which I do believe it should be that way anyway, as Ukraine was attacked from Russia. So I want to talk some more about this today and show you guys all this information. And then also I've got several things coming out from Russia that I want to show with you guys that possibly indicate that maybe Russia could be potentially running out of resources at some point. You know, whether it might be oil, whether it might be their economy. Okay, if their economy definitely goes into, into shambles, or falls apart, that could definitely stop this war as well. So we'll talk about that as we move along. So let's hop on over here real quick to the Kiev Independent. I'm just going to briefly go over this report of what Andriy Yermak was talking about just yesterday. So it says here, peace talks with Russia only possible when Moscow runs out of resources, Ukraine's Yermak says. This is coming out today, December 18th, 2024. Here's a picture of Andriy Yermak right here. And it says down below, peace talks between Kiev and Moscow will only be possible when Russia has run out of resources to fight its full-scale war, Andriy Yermak, head of the presidential office, said on December 17th. I would like to emphasize once again that only the strong are helped, so we must remain strong, he told Congress of local and regional authorities in Lviv in comments reported by Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. Real negotiations for a lasting peace will begin only when the enemy no longer has resources to continue the war, he added. With no military plan in sight to retake lost territories, pressure is mounting on Kiev to enter into peace negotiations with Russia, but Yermak warned that any concessions to Russia would only allow it to replenish its army and launch a new offensive in the future. If Russia is not forced to make a just peace, there will be no peace. There will be a pause, and Moscow will use this pause to restore forces and continue the offensive, Yermak said. So there's more information down here. You guys can read it yourselves. I will cite it down below in the description for you. But something I was thinking about with this kind of makes me think of like a boxing match, okay? You just imagine, Ukraine and Russia are both boxers, right? And Russia's just been hammering Ukraine with all these punches, but at some point, Russia's going to run out of gas, right? They will eventually run out of steam. We've seen many boxers, if you ever watch boxing or even UFC or anything like that, eventually one side, a fighter, especially if he's much bigger or larger, will eventually run out of gas very quickly and may not be able to fight anymore, okay? They'll throw their hands down. They can no longer throw punches. And this looks like what Ukraine is trying to do to Russia right now is, smash all their resources, push them into a corner where they feel like they can no longer attack Ukraine, and then also think about the territories that Russia's currently controlling, okay? If Ukraine's goal is to push all the way to the end with this war, stay in as long as they possibly can, maybe at some point Russian forces can no longer continue fighting, whether their economy is crumbling or they're running out of some sort of critical resources, whether it be oil. They're having a lot of issues with oil right now. There's just so many things that could happen inside of Russia, potentially making it difficult for them to continue fighting inside of Ukraine. And maybe that this could be part of Volodymyr Zelensky's plan, or Ukraine's plan in general, is to push Russia to the very end where they can no longer continue fighting, and maybe they can't even maintain fighting in the regions that Ukraine is currently controlling right now. It looks to me like that could be the direction that Ukraine is going. So very interesting information, and this is why I wanted to show you this today. So we're going to go ahead and hop on over here to X now, and I've got several things I want to show to you guys. This one's from David D. Some people just don't get this. Ukraine will continue to fight. Okay, so this was a new report just coming out today. Looks like on Ukrainska Pravda. Zelensky, no world leader has the right to negotiate with Putin on behalf of Ukraine. Okay, so that was from Zelensky today. So I would think that, this is a major statement to Donald Trump and maybe to any other world leaders, maybe even the NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte. But Trump, for the most part, coming out and kind of saying over the last couple months that he'll step in, he'll end this war. He's the one that will do this. Not Volodymyr Zelensky is kind of what Donald Trump has been saying. But it's looking more and more every day like Donald Trump may not be able to end it the way that he wants to. And ultimately, it looks like it may be up to the Ukrainians in the end, which obviously it should be, right, to end this war. So that was a new statement coming out today from Zelensky. So now we're going to move on to talking about Russia. I've got a few things here regarding Russia's military, citizens in Russia, how they feel about the war and how things are going, inflation that's gripping onto their nation right now. So I'm going to talk about this in terms of the head of the central bank. Her name is Elvira Nabiullina. Okay, and it says here from Nexta, the State Duma criticized the head of the Russian central bank, Deputy Sergei Mironov, questioned the competence of Elvira Nabiullina, accusing her of sabotage and claiming that raising the key interest rate is crippling the economy. According to Bloomberg, Nabiullina wanted to resign after the full-scale war in Ukraine began, but Putin did not allow her to leave. Her economic policies under sanctions prevented the ruble from collapsing. For this, Politico included Nabiullina in the list of the 28 most influential people in Europe in 2023. The central bank's current key interest rate is 21%. Russian experts warn it may be raised to 23% at the December 20th meeting. So note that is in just 2 days from now, okay? Which I believe should be on Friday. This would result in higher loan costs for Russians, with prices for goods and services likely to rise again. Amid these developments, Russian IT specialists are facing mass layoffs before the new year. Employers and the government tried to retain employees, with high salaries and preferential mortgages, but due to the high key interest rates, IT companies can no longer afford these benefits. So obviously, if interest rates are very high in Russia, it makes it very expensive for anybody to borrow any kind of loans from banks. So that's a major issue, right? That means that many businesses cannot expand. They'll have to start laying people off. The country can go into recession, maybe even depression at some point. Who knows? That Russia could already be in a recession right now. Their economy is already in very bad shape. So I want to show you guys this video real quick of him criticizing the head of the central bank, Elvira Nabiullina. Okay, so take a look at this, 40 seconds long.
Центробанк нас уверяет, что иного пути борьбы с инфляцией, как повышать учетную ставку, нет. Вопрос госпоже Набиуллиной. Госпожа Набиуллина, с июля прошлого года вы начали повышать учетную ставку. Насколько увеличилась инфляция? В 2 раза. Эй, госпожа Набиуллина, вы как-то вообще адекватны или нет? Что за бред вы несете? О чем вы говорите? Учетная ставка гробит нашу экономику. Не дает возможности поднимать наш внутренний валовый продукт. Вот это следствие повышения учетной ставки.
Okay, so interesting information, right? So him claiming that that it's all the central bank's fault, especially the head who's been raising the key interest rates. But something that I want to note here is maybe a large part of this is due to the war. I mean, how is that not a question here? How come that's not being brought up? Obviously, maybe many people don't want to criticize the war. Who knows what will happen to them if they try to do that? But they're claiming here that due to the high interest rates, that's the reason why they're having a crippled economy and issues with their GDP as well. Okay, their economy is not expanding at the same time, according to the State Duma. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys that, as obviously the economy could be a major reason why Russia could have to end this war in the future. Okay, also from Anton Gerashenko, we were born in a war and we end up in a war. Russian citizens were asked about their expectations for 2025. The answers are diverse. So I got a minute-long video to show you guys of some random citizens in Russia being asked what their expectations are for 2025. How are things for them, in the economy of Russia, things like that. Take a look at this.
Какие у вас ожидания на 2025 год?
Ой, самый позитивный. Атомная война, свинорез, Холокост 2. Не ждем, а готовимся. Да. Учитывая, что каждый год нехорошая ситуация в стране, не знаю, чего можно ожидать. Но готовимся, конечно, к худшему.
Да все подорожало ужасно. Да все дорожает каждый день.
А чего хорошего ждать-то? Война продолжается, продолжается разрушение, продолжается страдания людей.
Вообще фрукты дорогие. Да где же столько денег-то найдешь, чтобы по полкило в день?
Чем ближе новогодняя ночь, тем дороже продукты.
Что ожидаете в нашей стране?
Чтобы люди наши покаялись, в конце концов.
А что ожидаете от 25 года?
Победа.
Ну, закончится отпуск, и мой муж поедет в зону СВО дальше.
Родились в войну и заканчиваем войной. Хочется мира. Больше ничего не надо. Я не знаю, что народу надо. Что не живется мирно.
Какие у вас ожидания на 2000?
Okay, so from this video, we can see that a lot of people are complaining that the prices of like fruit, food in the stores are sky high and many people can't even afford it. But it seems to be, definitely a diverse kind of way that people see this war right now and the way things are in Russia. Some people are okay with it, some people are not. But it looks like for the most part, at least these set of individuals don't appear to be very happy with what's going on, and they probably would expect better times than what's happening right now inside of Russia. Okay, so moving on to another update from Anton Gerashenko. We used to joke, 100 men eat breakfast, 7 men eat dinner. That's pretty much how it was. A Russian assault man who signed a contract with the Russian Defense Ministry shared his experience. He spent 5 days on the contact line, although, as he said, soldiers usually do not live there for a day. Every 10 minutes, a new group is sent just to be killed at the same spot. Even the seriously wounded are not spared, and in the end, everything is strewn with corpses. Many soldiers dream of being captured simply to survive, but it's not all that easy, as they are constantly being watched by drones. This hero managed to desert, and now he is hiding and regrets that he sold his soul to the Ministry of Defense. So it looks like a previous Russian soldier who was able to escape, and now he's sharing his experience of how things were while he was in the military and talking about heavy losses on the Russian side and what he had to go through. So this is a short interview, about 1 minute and 44 seconds. Take a look at what he has to say.
Обычно люди живут там один день. Большой шанс, что ты оттуда не вернешься, потому что приказы такие и нацелены на то, чтобы просто людей истребить. Когда я уехал из Макеевки в госпиталь, туда заходил новый полк, привезли ребят, примерно 700 человек привезли. Через неделю в мой же госпиталь приехало несколько человек и сказали, что этого полка больше нет. 700 человек они убили за 3 дня. Это были обычные мобилизованные, контрактники и так далее. Чтобы вы правильно понимали, мы, в принципе, никогда не стояли нигде и не сидели. То есть нас привозят, мы идем в атаку. И вот идет 5 человек группа, они погибают, идет следующая группа 5 человек.
Из этого же грузовика?
Да, из этого же грузовика, той же самой тропинкой, той же самой дорожкой. Они погибают ровно там же, идет следующая 5. И вот так каждые 10 минут отправляется новая группа, пока они не возьмут какую-то точку, которая интересна командирам. Я видел, как 50 человек грузили в КАМАЗ на костылях в закреп со словами: вы бегать не можете, и значит, вы убежать не сможете. Значит, позиции не оставите, значит, будете там стоять до конца. В принципе, трупы там везде, там земли, в принципе, очень мало, там в основном одни трупы.
Попасть в плен – это реальная перспектива выжить, или это тоже страшно?
Если бы это было реально, я думаю, многие сдавались бы. За каждой группой следят всегда с воздуха, следит птичка. Они постоянно наблюдают за тем, чтобы никто не отошел в кусты, специально не затрехсотился так, чтобы была возможность откатиться. Чтобы никто не пошел куда-нибудь, чтобы специально сдаться. И я попал в СИЗО и оттуда подписал контракт. Это как контракт с дьяволом. Подписал, ты продал свою душу Минобороны. У нас шутили так. Завтракают 100 человек, ужинают 7. Примерно вот так оно и было.
All right, so he said normally there'd be 100 men eating breakfast, and at the end of the day, there'd be 7 men eating dinner, obviously indicating that many of these Russian soldiers are dying in battle. And if you notice here as well, he said 700 people were brought to the front line, and at the end of the day, or very soon after that, 700 of them were wiped out. So, massive losses on the Russian side, and this is where the whole meat assault thing comes into play. As we've talked about this, in Ukraine discusses this, calling all these attacks meat assaults by the Russians. So, just imagine how many soldiers Russia's continuously losing in this fight over here against Ukraine as they continue attacking on the eastern side of Ukraine, even in the Kursk region as well. So these were just some of the information coming out regarding Russia's military, as this man used to fight for Russia, okay, and now he's no longer with them. So very interesting information that I wanted to share with you guys. All right, so also from Nexta, Medvedev threatens to kill the Times journalists and NATO officials. It is impossible to ignore the Times publication. The bastards in their editorial called the terrorist attack against Kirillov and his aide a legitimate act of defense, Medvedev wrote. By the Times logic, NATO officials will be a legitimate military target for Russia, and the vile jackals from the Times who cowardly hid behind their editorial are now also a legitimate target for the Russian armed forces, he said. So this was a statement that came out today from Dmitry Medvedev, as we know that just yesterday we had Igor Kirillov, a top Russian general, that was eliminated. He was assassinated in Moscow yesterday with his assistant due to an IED planted on a bike outside of a door that he came out of from his home, and it was detonated, killing him and his assistant. So looks like Medvedev was threatening to kill the Times journalist, which is a British publication, and also NATO officials for this attack. Okay, so major threat coming from Dmitry Medvedev. Also from Nexta, UK Foreign Secretary responds to Medvedev's threats. Medvedev's gangster-like threats against the Times journalists reeks of desperation, emphasized David Lamy. Earlier, the deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council threatened journalists following the Times article, which described the killing of Russian General Kirillov as a legitimate act of defense by a state under threat. Dmitry Medvedev declared that the British newspaper's journalists themselves would now be considered a legitimate military target. Okay, so this was a response from David Lamy, who is the UK Foreign Secretary. Okay, this is what he stated in response to Dmitry Medvedev. Okay, also, we're going to move on to another update here from Bliskovka. The Air Force showed how Storm Shadow missiles fly towards Russia. We thank the pilots of the 7th Petro Franco Tactical Aviation Brigade for their successful combat work, the Post says. So these were probably the Storm Shadow missiles that were heading on over to Russia today. As we just did a report earlier a few hours ago letting you guys know that Storm Shadow, possibly even ATACMS, were striking the Rostov region of Russia, and Ukraine was able to capture some pictures of the Storm Shadow being launched from a Ukrainian fighter jet, okay? So that's kind of cool to see that for the very first time, this missile heading over to Russia, okay, to strike targets over there. All right, so moving on to another update from War Translated Dmitry in the Rostov region. One of Russia's largest chemical enterprises, FKP, which is known as the Kamyansky plant, was attacked according to CCD NSDC head Kovalenko. It is noted that the plant produces rocket fuel, including for intercontinental missiles. The plant also manufactures explosives, components for ammunition, and handles the disposal and deactivation of spent missile systems. Okay, so a major plant producing explosives, parts for missiles, and potentially even intercontinental missiles too, and rocket fuel. So this was the target today that Ukraine was going after in the Rostov region, okay? So I believe this should have been in, near Taganrog, which is what we were reporting this morning, and we heard that a metallurgical plant was located in that area as well that produces like titanium steel or metals for armored vehicles, things like that, for producing armor. So it looks like this was potentially another target that Ukraine was going after, okay, was this Kamyansky plant, and here's where it was located down here in the Rostov region, okay? So that's some big news. Wanted to give you guys an update with some more information on what was being targeted down here with these Storm Shadow and potentially ATACMS missiles just today. All right, also from Max 24, remains of a Storm Shadow missile near the village of Donetsk in Rostov region. So again, Rostov region with the Storm Shadow heading over there. We've got a new video to show you guys. I'm not going to show you the whole thing because it's kind of long, but you're going to be able to see some of the fragments that somebody found in an open field of these Storm Shadow missiles that hit Rostov today. Take a look.
Вот они кусочки, блядь. Сейчас, блядь, на чермет собирать будем.
Okay, we'll go ahead and pause it there, guys. Sorry if that was a little loud, but yeah, he's just kind of walking through this field showing the pieces of the British Storm Shadow missiles that were targeting the Rostov region is kind of what we're seeing here. Looks like another piece of it right there as he's walking up to it, okay? So pretty crazy to see the Storm Shadows now hitting the Rostov region for the very first time, as far as I know. Okay, also from X24, we will not only supply weapons to Ukraine, but also purchase Ukrainian weapons. NATO Secretary General Ruda, he also reported that the Allies have supplied Ukraine with 19 air defense systems to protect critical infrastructure. Okay, so as far as I know, Volodymyr Zelensky met with Mark Rutte today at his residence in Brussels, and they were supposed to be meeting privately to discuss some of these details as we're seeing here. And yeah, so he announced that they will not only supply weapons to Ukraine, but they're also going to be purchasing Ukrainian weapons. So that's a big deal. That's going to help out the Ukrainian economy. And he also stated that 19 air defense systems have been supplied to Ukraine from NATO, okay, from NATO allies. So that was a new update today from Mark Rutte. Finally, one last thing I want to show you guys. I wasn't able to show you this morning because this information had just come out soon after I recorded. But from Igor Sushko, Russian air defense shot down their own 16 million Ka-52 attack helicopter again, all crew dead. Okay, so apparently Fighter Bomber, which is a Russian Telegram channel, was mourning another loss of a Ka-52 Alligator helicopter. So most likely that means it was shot down. We've seen the Fighter Bomber channel do that several times this year, usually indicating that it was shot down. And the interesting thing here is that Russian air defenses shot this thing down again. Okay, so this is multiple times that we've had Russian helicopters being shot down by their own air defense teams. So that was some big news today. Okay, so another $16 million chopper being shot down probably over the skies of Russia. Maybe even in the eastern part of Ukraine or Crimea. Not really sure exactly where this happened at yet, but that report today just coming out that they did indeed shoot down their own Alligator helicopter, okay? So that's going to be it for today's update, though. Just wanted to give you guys a few more updates with some information on what's going on with this war. But I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. If you got something out of this update, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.